Hey guys, welcome back to another video from the Parrott Bros. Now this is going to be a loose how-to guide on how to swap your alternator. And I say loosely because I've never done it before and I've heard the 3.2 can be a bit of a pig because that massive engine in here, it takes up all the room. Now the alternator is literally just here, but I can't even get my finger on it because it's that far down the hole. Now, like I said, there's two ways of doing it that I've found. Remove the front bumper, loosen the front end and then pull it forwards to then give you a gap to try and shuffle it out past the fans. Now, we're going to try that because that's easier than the other way. I'm still not particularly confident on it. So we're going to try both ways and see which way is easier so that when you have to do it, should you ever have to do it yourself, you'll know which way to do it from the start. Now, quick backstory before we get stuck into that as to how I came across this issue. Long story short, battery was going flat on the car, sometimes after a couple of days, sometimes after a couple of weeks. There was no particular sort of pattern to it. And I checked everything. I pulled the fuse for the stereo system, for the locking system, for other things, and I couldn't find the issue. But when I plugged my little dongle in or checked the battery on the 49C trick, which is number 20, you can see that it was like 14.1, which is what you'd expect the charge to be when this is running. So I dismissed it for a while. Battery kept going flat, replaced the battery of a different battery, still the same problem. Sometimes it'd be fine, sometimes it'd be completely flat. So something was staying on or draining the battery. Now, when doing some research, it was mentioned that the alternator could be an issue, not that it wasn't charging properly, but that was one of the reasons. And the other reason was it can stay, if there's a short inside the controller on the back, like the rectifier that changes the voltage depending on the load, the current depending on the load, that can then cause it to draw heat. Heat makes power, which then drain the battery. But I also noticed that when I was monitoring 49C on number 20, when I was driving, it should be 14.1, which it was between 13.7 and 14.1, fine. Aircon on, headlights on, both heated seats on, I could get that down to 11.8, and I'll show you that in a second. And that's no good, because basically it's draining the battery flat and it's not recharging it. So there's definitely an issue with the alternator. Whether that's the exact cause, but it's definitely a problem with this car. Like I said, there's two ways of doing it. One is from the top and one is from the bottom. Now the Bentley manual says from the bottom, and basically what you have to do is remove the under tray, then you take the steering pump away with the pipe still on it, and then you remove the aircon pump, and then you take it out from below. Fine, but there's a very long way around doing it. However, some people have said front bumper off, headlights out, and then you loosen the front clip which holds the radiators, and then you just can pull it forward and you can shuffle it out the top. Now that would be a lot easier, although you still have to do quite a lot. So we'll try both ways and I'll let you know which one is going to be easier for you should you ever have to do this job. I hope you don't, because I can just about see the pulley and it's there and it looks awfully hidden. So this is the first time I'm doing it. The first time we'll do it all together. I'll show you what's not so good, what is good. What I'll do is I'll start, so you don't have to watch me do it. I'll remove all of the paneling, the front bumper and the headlights, and get it to a point where the wheels are off so we can have a good look in. We'll see what room we don't have, and then we can make a plan from there. While I'm doing that, I'll show you what I mean about checking the voltage on your car, how to do it, and what you should be ready to see. So you want to start by doing the 49C trick, which is when you press this button and this button at the same time. Go up to number 20, and that will give you your battery voltage. Okay, so 11.5, but that's because we've got some of the systems on. So let's get this started. And then it should ramp up again. Okay, so it's already a little bit low. I've got no aircon on, just the blower on. So if we put the aircon on, that will then drop it because it turns the fans on. Then if I turn my lights on, it then drops down again. We'll put some more load on, put the heated seats on. And you can see it's already dropping down. Now that should be rectifying itself and keeping it at around 14. Now when you go out driving and the revs drop down a bit more, it actually will go to below 12, it'll go down into the 11s. So it's actually draining the battery and not charging it. You've stripped down the front end. I have done both the front and the underside, so you don't have to, and we'll pick which way is better. Now let me show you what is where and how we get to it and stuff like that. So your alternator is here, hidden in captivity. As you can see, pretty well not going to get that out of there anytime soon. Now this bolt here is to loosen the tensioner, mounted here with the guide roller just there. And that will allow us to remove the belt. Now, it's always worth making a note of the orientation of the belt. It's fairly simple. It's worth doing a drawing or take a photo. You can see here, it gives you a rough idea of where they go. There is also a picture in the Bentley manual, which I will flash on screen now. And then we're going to need to remove the alternator. Now, from below, it's the one you can't really see very well because that pulley at the top there. See if I can get my hand up above. Yep, so this one, where I've got my finger. Now, it's also saying in the Bentley manual to remove the power steering pump, which is this one. Then remove the aircon pump out of the way to then allow us to get the alternator out of the way. And you've got to remove this support bracket, which I've done. I am just hanging it there for the time being. It's not particularly resting on anything to cause any problems. Now, things you may run into an issue with space-wise. Now, if you're going to take the top out, which is loose, if you're going to take the front panel off and pull it forward, you're still going to be fairly tight, and that is for a number of reasons. You can remove the aircon pipe. Let's have a look. I'll see if I can do this one-handed. I may or may not be able to, we shall see. So, if you remove this front end, you're sort of limited by how far the pipes will go without causing any damage. The pipes in consideration at this point now is this one here. See there? So it's a hard pipe there into the bottom of your dryer there. So you are limited based on that. Now, and also these two pipes here, you could probably get away with that a little bit more. We can try undoing this, but the thing is you don't really want to pull on it too much because obviously it's a hard pipe, so it'll only go so far. I have a feeling we may be doing this from the bottom. Requires a bit more to come off, but I feel like it'll be a less stressful, slightly more time-consuming job. Now, before you do anything electrical, remove the battery. I've already removed the battery and stuck it on charge down there. So when we put it on, we're going to have a lovely charged battery with a new alternator, so hopefully we can do some good fault finding. Yeah, so that is from the top. We'll start by loosening this till the point that the belt will just fall off. Like I said, make a note of how the belt comes off, and then we'll start doing some removal of captivity from the bottom, I think. So we already have one casualty. We've got the steering pump off now, but I snapped one of the bolts in the pump itself. Luckily, there was enough to put a double nut on it. Now I have got the one in question. There's what snapped, and that was come out the pump. It was very, very tight, and then all of a sudden become very loose. You all know exactly that scary feeling. But luckily, there was just enough there to get two nuts on, and then you've got to tighten them together, and then I recommend doing it up a little bit before undoing it, and then luckily for me, it came out nice and simple. So I'll just show you where we are. Let me turn this torch off. So we've got the pump out. There was two fixings this side, and then a third fixing the other side facing the other direction. So if we look at this pump here, there was two fixings, one on each side, and then the second fixing here. So that's the pump out of the way. Now we've got movement, we can obviously swing that out of the way. Next up is this little beauty, the aircon compressor. And that is these two fixings here, 1 and 2. We'll try and crack them off. I don't think there's any additional fixings on the other side, but I believe they go all the way through, which makes me a little bit nervous, but we shall see. How well can you see that? It's here, just there. That bolt goes all the way through to there. So we'll have a go and we'll see what happens. We've got to a point in which we're ready to get the air conditioner compressor out. However, this top bolt actually hits the chassis. Now when you look in the Bentley manual, this says you may need to loosen the engine and move it over. So it's at this point that I am going to give up on the bottom section. I'll come back and fix this later. And I think we should go up to the top and try removing it from the top, because this seems like an awful lot of hassle to remove something we could potentially do from the top instead. So trying from above, because I think this is going to be the easier option, because removing the aircon pump and that just seemed like an absolute nightmare. Of course we tried it, we saw the space. I think this is going to be the better option. So what I've done, I'll show you in a minute once we've got it out, but I've got it loose. What I had to use was a pry bar, and I had to pry where it was mounted like that and just sort of walk it away. I'll show you once it's out, but I just wanted to get it to this point. Now at the moment, this is floating. So there's nothing holding this other than the pipes that are attached to it, which is quite a few to be fair. There is different things attached to it, and we've got to try and get this alternator out. Now the connections are disconnected, so he's just sat in the space, and the awkward thing is it's really heavy, which doesn't make it any easier. We've got to try and get it out of this gap. Now there's a fan in the way, which doesn't help. Can we... So you don't want to damage anything else, because then there's more to work to do for you later. That sort of as far. Oh, there we go. Quality. Right, let's just prep this back into position, because otherwise we're going to end up breaking more stuff. So get it back rested on top. What I normally do is try and get one of the bolts in at the top. I'll show you this in a minute. And then at least it can't go anywhere. Even if it's just loose. Same on this side. This side's a bit out of whack. Oh, make sure you don't get anything trapped while you're doing it. Okay, so let's zoom you out a bit and get you a better view of me, and I'll talk you through it. Okay, so this lovely alternator here, very, very simple connections wise. One 13mm bolt head nut, which comes off, which holds the main power supply cable. You've got your control plug, which is your typical VAG, push in, push the flap down and pull it away. And then there was a P-clip holding the cable loom that goes to this on the back, and that's an 8mm nut. And then that is available to come out. Now, this is harder to get in and out because it has these like washered collars. I don't know where you can see this. I'll cover my face so you can't, hopefully it will zoom in a bit better. But see these here? These, if you push them out, will make this very easy to fit. But when you wind it in, it pulls them in, which then makes it a snugger fit, which is fine, but it means removing this thing is an absolute swine. You can see a few shiny bits on the top here where I've had to leverage it out. So that, if you can imagine, that's bolted in like that. And I've got the bar, and all I'm doing is just putting the bar in and just pulling it away. And then once it's out, it just kind of goes. So I think we can confirm from the top is the best option. Right, let me swap to my phone and I'll give you a walk around because it's easier than taking the camera around. Okay, so what you need to remove is quite a bit, unfortunately. So you basically need to remove front bumper, headlights, and then you've got to undo this 10mm, these three 13s which hold the slam panel on both sides, so same on this side. And then I believe this is an M8. I've got the torque set out. It's an M8 or an M10. Remove these, and then the front end will be loose and it will fall on you, so do please be careful. I have also undone the carbon canister to allow me to get to the tensioner. Now, I'll explain why. Basically, this tensioner, can I show you better on this picture? This tensioner basically blocks this back bolt for the alternator. So it makes it a bit of a nightmare to get it undone. So it's only 3 bolts, 6mm Allen keys. Undo them 3 once you've got your carbon canister off, then this just lifts out, which then allows you, I don't know if I can show you from the side here, but if you can imagine that's there and your pulley is sat here so you can't get to it. It just makes your life a lot easier when you're coming to remove it. So let's talk through the job from the beginning. Let me move you over here. So, recommended from the top. Audi say from the bottom, or the Bentley manual says from the bottom. I need to put the bottom back together because I tried that. Snapped a bolt out of the steering pump. Can't get the compressor out because one of the top bolt actually won't come out past the chassis, and it tells you undo the engine. And at that point, I thought, right, let's just try from the top. I wish I'd have started from the top from the beginning, but for your purpose, I mean, to be fair, I've done you a solid. Now, you know, you don't have to take all the bottom off. You've still got to do, so front bumper, headlights, and then loosen this trim, ideally with 2 people if possible, unless you've got the knack of being able to wobble it around. But it does mean you don't have to roll on the floor too much, which is a massive benefit. I also have the best part of about 4 hours of putting this all back together because I've taken it now completely all apart. But once you've got the top out, you can then pull it right out, take your carbon canister, move it over. I've also loosened the 2 aircon pipes which are round just to allow us a bit more movement. And then take your tensioner off, and then it allows you to get to your alternator. You'll have to leverage it out, like I said. And then once you've done that, you're flying that bolt, that clip, and then the little loom holder on the P-clip, and your alternator's out. To do it all the same in reverse, I would probably recommend, if you're going to this much grief, I would probably just swap it for a new one with warranty. Used ones are great, unless you've got one that you've personally tested. This is a lot of work. I'd also recommend always replacing the serpentine belt, the auxiliary belt, because if you're going to all this extent, just fit a new belt. The tensioner sorts its own tension out, so once you've got all the belt lined up, make sure you know which way it goes in, then you are good as gold. But I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I won't show you all the put back together, but basically you do everything in reverse. I just thought I'd show you the job of getting it out. Swapping it over is self-explanatory. Buy one with the same part numbers, swap it out, and then just go back in reverse. Don't go from underneath, go from the front. I hope you found this interesting, if not a bit helpful. Hopefully this will stop people having to absolutely fight with them in the future. I wish I'd have started from the top to begin with, because now I've got a couple of hours of work putting everything back together underneath. But I hope you've enjoyed watching that, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.